The voice of sharing. Durian ASEAN.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
Hi, this is Arlene and you're with Durian ASEAN. And together with me is Mr. Felino A. Palafox. He's a prominent Filipino architect, urban planner, and of course, environmentalist. He's also the principal architect, urban planner, and founder of Palafox Associates. Of course, with me, he's known as a person who is trying to propel something new, which is architecture activism, and as well as green architecture. So anyway, hi.
Hi Arlene, glad to be here.
Yes, and I guess before we start our conversation, tell me more about the Palafox Associates and also about your interest in architecture.
Yes, I started my company Palafox Associates in 1989 after having done work in several countries like Dubai. I practically started my career in Dubai, helping create a garden city out of the desert.
You were 27 at that time.
I was 27 years old. I was hired by the ruling family of Dubai to help them bring Dubai from the third world into the first world in 15 years, create a garden city out of the desert, design Dubai as if there's no oil, put into practice into Dubai the best practices in the world, and make Dubai a pace-setter city in that region, setting the pace. And one thing I like about it also was we had the opportunity to go around the world with my family to learn best practices elsewhere in the world and bring it back to the conversation table in Dubai. And in fact, in Dubai, most of my future clients met me in Dubai, not in the Philippines. And it was a game-changing work that we had.
So Dubai, you have to thank them.
Yes.
But what is the interesting part of architecture? Especially you have been having 40 years of experience in this field, and also 38 years in planning. I don't think you want to stop.
Yeah, it's actually 43 years in architecture and 41 years in planning in 38 countries. I think just the past 25 years.
Is Malaysia one of it?
Yeah. Well, Malaysia, I was invited to do some work, but somehow along the way it did not prosper. But I still have invitations to do work here, and I think I'm very fortunate to have been given the opportunity to work in those 38 countries, and I have observed and visited. Learned lessons from more than 2,000 cities in 63 countries, and I bring it to the table. I was also a guest lecturer in 1997 for Harvard and MIT, before I became a student of Harvard.
How is that possible? I'm scratching my head.
Yeah, I got invited to, that time, 1997, 1996, I had on-the-job trainees from MIT and many students from Harvard were asking about how come I come from a developing country and was able to do work in so many other countries. And in fact, since then, I've given lectures in 18 countries, projects in 38 countries. And I think the practice and theory are blended together if you are in the practice of your profession and then you lecture also. And a student, I was invited to be in one of the first batch at Harvard there was a new course after 9/11 on advanced management development program for real estate development. Then I took up also architecture and sustainability, that's green architecture, master planning and sustainability. I have one diploma and several certificates of continuing education, and focus on sustainability and best practices. That's green and sustainable. And also, the nice terminologies that what I've been doing about helping the poor and helping reconstruct post-disaster areas. My professors in Harvard and my colleagues, they labeled what I'm doing outside the architectural box, commercial architecture of just doing work for those who can pay, clients who can pay, but I've been helping the poor, post-disaster areas, and crusading for the environment. And we call it architectural activism, or democratic architecture, patriotic architecture, architecture for humanity, and also for architecture of faith, for doing places of worships for the various religions.
Something new that probably unheard of for a lay
Yeah,
person like myself. Can you enlighten us what exactly it means?
Like in my country, 28% are very poor. So I help them in design and build their communities. And there are also places of worship that I help, especially again for poor communities, both rich and poor communities. And I do a lot of work also for iconic landmark large-scale developments. But I do a lot of work on, I don't call it pro bono, because for me, I get spiritual and psychological income, helping the poor, fighting for the environment, interfaith dialogue, and help them design and build their places of worship. Like in Bam, Iran, I think 2003, there was a big earthquake, and our work was funded by Chuchi, a Buddhist organization from Taiwan, and for the orphans orphaned by the big earthquake, Muslim children of Iran, and they hired us Christian Catholic architects from the Philippines to design and help them rebuild their schools. And I ended up donating 70% of my architect's fee.
Oh, that's interesting.
And
but why?
I felt...
What's the spiritual content?
But I saw when I first saw the children and the principals, the teachers, I saw a facial landscape of despair, their faces of despair. And then, so I donated 70% of my architect's fee to help them rebuild the schools. And I did not even know the Taiwanese, they call their project in Mandarin, which I don't speak Mandarin, Project Hope. So after I showed the students, the principals, the teachers, our architectural perspectives for their school, I saw the face of hope, so from despair to hope. So there was so much psychological, spiritual income that I derived from it. And we did green architecture also for their schools, like the principles of wind towers, which they have forgotten in the Middle East, where you put a tower, collect the wind from above, and cross-ventilate the whole structure. And we're able to reduce, without air conditioning, by 20 degrees in summer, the temperature inside, and 10 degrees in autumn. And somehow, again, it set a new standard of building schools. And some time ago also, 2009, I had a client in the Philippines who we already signed a $1 million architect's fee to design a 6-star hotel. And there were 366 70-year-old trees.
And they want to demolish it.
They want to demolish, cut all the trees.
But what's the value of that tree?
The tree, my estimate is about, I think, $400,000 for a 50-year-old tree.
Wow.
And these are 70-year-old trees. And I returned the contract of $1 million, and then I got threatened, death threats and libel cases, but we were able to save the trees.
Can you share with us what exactly is your principle as an architecture? Because many people, when they embark in professionals, not necessarily architecture, but in any other professional, usually profit would triumph any other aspect of their principle.
Yeah. Good question. We had what I call a triple bottom line approach to development. Now it's 5. People first, or social equity. Who will benefit from the project? So I make sure jobs are created, especially for the poor. Then planet Earth, or the environment. Then we can talk about profits or economic goals. If one of those 3 is missing, I don't accept the project. Then number 4, I've added it, culture, history, and heritage. Then number 5, spirituality. Because working through so many disaster areas, we seem to be more prayerful after a disaster, regardless of religion or faith, and that had guided me all my professional practice, whether I'm working in the Middle East with Muslims, or in China and Taiwan with Buddhists, in the Philippines with Christian
And
Catholics.
You have that interfaith
I had
architecture.
interfaith architecture also. Like the Sultan of Brunei commissioned us to be the architect for the largest mosque in the Philippines. I'm not even a Muslim. Usually you get a Muslim architect to design a mosque, and we were appointed to do that. And
That's an irony of,
yeah,
of
it is not.
Sultan appoint you.
No, because for me, I'm very optimistic in the future that one day we are one world, or one nation, or one world under one God. We call them different names: Allah, God, Yahweh, and so on. But it's all the same God, and I've been advocating that, aside from people first, planet Earth, profit, culture, heritage, and spirituality. Yeah.
And at the same time, I would like to ask about the Philippines. Since you are from the Philippines, you have done amazing work all over the world in terms of building so many different kind of architecture, as well as your activism. But when it comes to the Philippines, if you were to assess the urban planning there, what can you say about it? And what is the best and worst practices that we can learn?
In urban planning, a lot of urban planning initiatives have been put forward in the Philippines. In fact, before I started working abroad, I was 25 to 27 years old. I was team leader and senior planning for development planning of Metro Plan Manila, Metro Manila Transportation, Land Use and Development Project. And I think we put forward more than 300 recommendations, from transportation to land use to development to addressing hazards before they become disasters. And unfortunately, in my part of the world, we have issues of good governance, peace and order, and not addressing more effectively climate change. And from concept to commitment to completion, it takes decades or years. Unlike my work in Dubai, they can decide right away. Or anywhere in the world.
It's a different kind of challenge.
I think it's a leadership issue also. And after observing so many cities, so many countries, working in many of them or giving lectures, there are 5 success elements that I see. First, you must have visionary leadership, leaders with vision. Number 2, strong political will. Leaders that should be able to have the will to implement those good visions. Number 3, good planning, good urban planning, town planning. Number 4, good design like architecture, engineering, and the other built environment professions. Then number 5, good governance or good management. Unless you have that, you may have the best laid out plans in the world, but if you don't have that, you're not going to make it. Like the rulers of Dubai, which I had the opportunity to work with them, a lot of good literature have been written about Lee Kuan Yew, the former mayor of Bloomberg of New York, or Richard Daley of Chicago, many of the prime ministers in Scandinavian countries. They have that. And
they have the vision.
Yeah, they have the vision, political will, good planning, good design, and good governance.
What about knowledge? Do you think politicians should have urban planning knowledge? Especially more and more people are projected to be living in cities in the future.
Yeah, politicians should appreciate the benefits of good urban planning, because even the good leaders in the world, they follow the recommendations of urban planners, architects, and engineers, and see the benefits of it. And unfortunately, sometimes some political leaders, they don't consult anymore. And sometimes also, I call it in one of the things I've been presenting in the Philippines now, I call it postcards from the future. I send
Postcards.
pictures to the mayors of the uglification of their cities.
Oh, wow.
Then
What is that?
the ugliness of their cities. Then we show through urban design or architectural perspectives and how they should look better, how they should look like, and I label them postcards from the future.
So how many cities have been under your spell?
Yeah, even if they're not our project, I do it, and sometimes most of the mayors, in fact, appreciated it. And I thought at first they would get very upset. Many of them, they heard us. And I tell them, because the uglification of cities in the Philippines, because the built environment, most of the time, the ones deciding are politicians and their favored contractors, favored consultants who may not be the best, and a lot of lawyers deciding. The legal profession is more powerful than the architectural profession in the decisions being made on the built environment. So instead of complaining, writing about the complaints, we draw it, we design it. And there's so many requests all over the world that presenting this concept of drawing, designing postcards from the future. In fact, I'm putting timelines like Philippines 2021. Why 2021? The Philippines will be 500.
Because you don't want to follow Malaysia 2020?
No, 2021 because Philippines became Philippines in 1521. It will be 500 years old.
Because in Malaysia we
The
have
2020
the
vision, yeah. But the 2020 vision was also one of our past presidents. President Ramos said that 2020 vision. But one challenge we have in the Philippines is there's no continuity from one administration to the other. There's lack of intellectual or institutional continuity. And leaders, they must be educated. I think good leaders must not be intellectually challenged or integrity challenged. Honesty, integrity, and professionalism should also be there. The small town of Curitiba, Brazil, it's one of the smartest, greenest city in the world. About 30 years ago, a fellow lecturer in Harvard, James Lerner, became mayor. He was an architect, urban planner, and most of his city council were architects and engineers. So they were able to transform that small city, Curitiba, and became a good model for urban planning, sustainable development in the world.
How do you avoid whitewashing the whole concept of green architecture?
Greenwashing.
Yeah, greenwashing.
A lot of people claim they are green and sustainable, but actually we call them greenwashing because they're not really green and sustainable. And a lot of advertising and promotions to promote their project. But if you look at it, it's not really greenwashing. Things like when you build a building, I think 5% of that is the carbon footprint of bringing in the building materials into the project site. And some buildings, just 25, 30 years old, they demolish them for another new building. So when you demolish the building which is still structurally stable, that's another 5% in carbon footprint for bringing out the materials. Then you bring in a new building material, that's another 5%. So for that particular site, you already have 15% embodied energy as a carbon footprint. Another one, many leaders, whether from the private sector or from industry and business, they want to maintain their big villas in the middle of the city. And when you have this one thing we learned in a conference we had in Boston in 1998, when you have a large single-family home in the middle of the city, you have a larger environmental footprint because you are arrogating to yourself prime urban land resources, preventing more people, more families to live closer to their places of work, encouraging more urban sprawl to encroach into the forest, into the farms. So if you live in the city, it's more sustainable to be in medium-rise or high-rise multi-family dwellings.
In Malaysia, in the situation of Malaysia, the high cost of living in the city as well as the high price of properties have somehow create this process called gentrification,
Yes.
where more and more people are actually going out of the city rather than going in.
Yes.
As an urban planner, how do you avoid this? How do you create an environment where people are able to be part of the city society?
Yes. One of my professors in Harvard used to tell us, this century will be a rest century. Reimagine, replan, redesign, re-architecture, re-engineer, reuse, recycle, and hopefully redevelopment, renewal. Hopefully we'll have renaissance. And there are opportunities to do urban renewal. So revitalize the inside of the cities. And I've worked on projects like those, like in the Philippines, in Makati, the financial district. There used to be a brownfield, a power plant that was polluting even the neighborhood. So the power plant was decommissioned. There was environmental remediation, clean up the site. And we created a mixed-use high-rise development, tall buildings, with 49% non-saleable area, big open spaces. It's called Rockwell Center. It's the highest land value appreciation in the whole of the Philippines. So it can be done. That's a deteriorating part of that city. And now we revitalize it, we renewed it. It's the highest value appreciation in Metro Manila. Yeah.
That's very good. If you were to give one example in the cities in Southeast Asia that probably cities around Southeast Asia can learn from, what city would be the best example?
Yeah, it's predictable. Usually they sell it. Singapore. Singapore because they had good leadership. They were lucky to have Lee Kuan Yew to have with them, and also the leadership. They believe in good urban planning, going around the world to get best practices and apply it. And so was Dubai, and that's one. Another one in Japan for me, it's Kyoto and Fukuoka. Kyoto and Fukuoka, they're both very walkable cities. And Tokyo also is a collection of big neighborhoods. Hong Kong, despite its issues, and as I mentioned, if the rest of the world followed the density of Hong Kong, all the world's 7 billion population, we can all fit in the state of Texas. And Hong Kong is about 70% open space because they went vertical cities. And all of this that have become good models of urban planning, urban development. I think leadership was the key.
Leadership.
Yeah, leadership and faster way from concept to commitment to completion, shorter time periods.
I think when you say leadership, also in the case of a lot of the countries in Southeast Asia, they always complain on the part of implementation. We always have good policies, good ideas on paper, but when it comes to implementing it, it's either we lack resources or ideas or people to implement it.
One thing we practice ever since I started practicing architecture, urban planning, we always look at alternatives, master plans, alternative designs, before we choose the preferred one. Because for me, my principle is, I'd rather see my mistakes on paper than see it in concrete. So if you have different alternatives, you see the advantages, disadvantages. Unfortunately, sometimes in government projects, anywhere in the world, because maybe government bureaucrats, they're given tight deadlines sometimes, they just come with a single solution approach. Another one that even in my young practice of urban planning and architecture, the economists, they have what they call cost-benefit analysis. And one thing that I did not learn this in Harvard, I learned this in Hard Knocks, School of Hard Knocks.
On the streets.
Identify the beneficiaries and sufferers. If you have a big project, who are the beneficiaries? Who are the sufferers? Let's say in my country, I'm told, I'll check the numbers, only 2% of Filipinos own cars. 100% are pedestrians.
I think that's totally the opposite in Malaysia.
When
Or in Kuala Lumpur.
when you leave your car, you're a pedestrian. And yet transport policy is for the automobile. Roads, roads, roads. Nothing for the pedestrians. And projects that I do, whether we're followed or not, the first concept is green urbanism, green architecture. Like green urbanism for the road cross-section of the road. 1/3 is for trees and landscaping. 1/3 for the pedestrians and bicycles, and only 1/3 for the moving vehicles. 1/3, 1/3, 1/3. And it's very difficult to re-educate leaders because they're so fixated that automobile, automobile, automobile. And for master plan communities that we do, we design, I require for every car, you must plant 10 trees because it takes about 10 trees to recover the oxygen out of the carbon monoxide per car. Master plan communities that I was involved in the Middle East, in the Gulf, I require 17 trees per car because they have much larger, what I call, shopping utility vehicles.
This is also another area that is quite, I would say, a trend in Malaysia now. I don't know, you probably would have noticed the sprawling of shopping malls.
Yes.
It seems like Malaysia or Kuala Lumpur's, or including the rest of the Klang Valley, when it comes to urban planning, more and more malls are being built. Do you think this is the right way for a city to survive? Especially when you talk about sustainability.
Yeah. In fact, we are architects of mega malls, shopping malls, large malls also. But it's because of the urban development pattern of cities. Like, for instance, gated communities or rigid zoning, where place to live, place to work, place to shop and dine. That global trend now is mixing them together, walkable. Like when we're designing one development in Metro Manila, the Rockwell Center, a survey was done. We Metro Manilans, we walk only 400 meters. We're spoiled by the stop anywhere car, stop anywhere jeepney, tricycle, buses, taxis. So I think ideally, your daily needs should be within walkable distance. Whether your walkable distance is 400 meters or 2 kilometers, that should be the way. Another one that's, so the rigid zoning, residential only. So the demand for shopping, they are accommodated in big malls. Like super regional malls, these are the 1 million square feet to 5 million square feet leasable spaces. Theoretically, they should be 9 kilometers apart. But sometimes we have malls beside each other. And one reason for that, as a shopper, you would go to the shopping center with the widest variety. So it's market driven. At the same time, we plan our communities without shopping. And maybe one smart city that I can mention is New York. You're penalized to use your car. Every time you move your car, $10. You park overnight, $70. So you're forced to walk. And the cities now, maybe aside from the rigid zoning, we could probably designate places in the city. I think this is the trend by the millennial generation as well, the younger generation, where you have 24-hour cycle activity centers, you have 16 hours, 8 hours, and mix them together. And it should be walkable, bikeable, safer, integrating places to live, work, shop, and dine, learn and worship, preferably in a walkable community. Safer, better lighted, and so on. And I think that's the challenge of not just planners, but decision makers and policy makers. And it's just like pre-World War II. Pre-World War II cities were like that. The charming towns and cities in old European cities. But after World War II, we were influenced by the automobile. Even some parts of the world, the automobile companies, I'm told, they bought some railway to kill them.
Oh yeah, that happened in the U.S.
Yeah, that happened in the U.S. Now, the Americans now are American planners now are leading the way in reforming, because the rest of the world copied everything what they were doing. Yeah, and in fact, I think there was a New York World's Fair in the 1940s, and I saw at Harvard their poster boy, like this is the future, the automobile and asbestos. Yeah, that was the New York World's Fair.
Wow.
This is the future, the car and the asbestos. Yeah.
But now, of course, when you talk about asbestos, it's a very dangerous.
Yeah, in fact, the American Planning Association, the American planners, we talk a lot about this, or also in my postmasteral education, like how come the rest of the world copied everything that America was doing, and post-war American planning. They had a better pre-war American planning. And somebody said, American planner from Miami, Andres Duani, the new urbanism guy, he said something like, well, because America won the Pacific War and the European War, so the rest of the world thought that everything America did was the best practice. Everybody copied them, except the Italians and the French. And I said, how come? Because the French and the Italians were always skeptical of the Americans. So if you want to see charming towns and cities, you go to Italy and France. Yeah.
Now I know. Now we need to be skeptical. That means
you ask intelligent question. Why is it like this? Not because they're the most powerful, most popular, because that's the trend that time. So the trend that time was automobile.
So, final question. What do you foresee the trends in the future? Do you see countries or cities going backward, meaning that they try to be more sustainable, try to focus more on green growth rather than, and try to address issues relating to climate change?
Yeah, definitely, because I think it was an American Indian chief who said, we just borrowed the environment from future generations. We're just stewards and borrowers of the environment. And like, if the rest of the world lived like the lifestyle of the Americans, we need 6 planets. And I think in 2006, Dubai got the distinction of the highest carbon footprint per capita. 9 planets if we use the Dubai lifestyle. So the leadership of Dubai, Sheikh Mohammed, decreed that every building that goes up now in Dubai must be LEED certified, green architecture. So you can see their visionary leadership, strong political will, good planning, good design, and good governance. So they did not want to be have the distinction of the highest per capita carbon footprint in the world, and they're addressing it effectively. Yeah, and so are the Americans, with all respect. The Americans now are leading the way in transforming our cities into green and sustainable. And it all started with the universities, and those who have gotten their education in top universities in the world before 9/11, I think they should go back. Because every time there's a global crisis, I go back to school. After the fall of the Berlin Wall, a lot of changes. The Wall Street financial crisis, a lot of changes. After 9/11, a lot of changes. After 9/11, aside from attending conferences and seminars like headed by large organizations like Urban Land Institute, FIABC, and so on, I've been to Harvard as a student 8 times since 9/11.
Wow.
Yeah.
It must be your backyard now.
It's like unlearning the mistakes of others. Yeah, unlearn your mistakes, document it, then best practice. Because the built environment is different. Unlike selling salami, you slice off a part of a salami, forget about the whole thing. In the built environment, if you don't develop it, plan it properly, somebody puts a lousy development beside you, there's an impact on your own property. Let's say you put a 5-star a luxury apartment. Somebody puts a piggery beside it. What value will it do to your property?
That's true. Do you think for the ASEAN economic community, urban planners and those who are interested in forming Southeast Asia as these future community cities should look at the vision that you have been sharing?
We need good urban planners, good architects, good engineers, and it should be more comprehensive in outlook. Don't just think of the client who pays your paycheck. You should think of the consumer, the beneficiaries. And as I tell my people, every line we draw, you should think of the sufferer if you do a lousy job. We should think of the beneficiary if you do a good job. Everything we do, we try to excel towards global excellence and best practice. Because it's not enough to be successful. You have to be significant. One day you leave this world and somebody up there will ask you, what have you done? And doing it right away. And after learning so many best practices, best lessons in architecture, urban planning, in Harvard Graduate School of Design, you know, we had one professor. He entered the room and he surprised all of us. You know what he told us? You're dying tonight. Write your eulogy. And who among your friends and relatives will read it for you? We were 19 from chosen students, 19 from 4 continents. I was the only Asian. He noticed everybody had the writer's block. Then he gave a second assignment. You're dying tonight. What legacy, lessons learned you leave behind your children and future generations? Until now, that's a work in progress. Before I go to sleep, I look back. And two of my classmates were murmuring that time, as a side anecdote, oh my gosh, they said something like, they've been a SOB all their lives. Nobody will say nice things about them.
Anyway.
That's why they are successful.
That's true. Anyway, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us.
Yeah, thank you.
Felino, Palafox.
The Durian Heat, bringing big ideas and critical opinions in Southeast Asia.
The voice of sharing. Durian Heat.